I, 26F, feel misled by my fiance, 26M, regarding his past relationship. How do I deal with it? Should I accept his apology and move on? I, 26F, got engaged to my fiance, 26M, close to 2 months ago. We had been together for a bit over a year, the majority of which we spent long distance as he lives in a different country. Update: we spent 3 months getting to know each other on proper dates on an almost daily basis before going long distance, and he came back to the country due to COVID for a couple of months prior to our engagement in August. As context, we mesh very well together and have barely even had an argument over the course of our relationship. He vehemently chased me with very kind and romantic gestures, even though I am more guarded and not as expressive. I have been very trusting of him throughout our relationship, and he has not shown me any reason to displace his trust. To the contrary, he has been very transparent, kind, loving and romantic. When we discussed our past relationships, he told me that he only had one serious relationship, for 2 years, with a girl in his country when he was at university. He characterized her as having been obsessed with him. He is admittedly very attractive and successful, and pressurizing him into the relationship. She was from a different culture than his parents, which his parents would never have approved her. However, he said that he left her as he never really cared for her, disliked many aspects of her personality, and never saw a future with her, causing him to leave her for reasons other than his parental approval. He also told me that he informed his father of her after they broke up, once again emphasizing that he left her for reasons of his own. He often writes me love poems and, voluntarily, stated that he has never written a poem for anyone before. He also told me that after they broke up, she stalked him, sent him threats, would sleep outside the door of his house, etc., which led to him wanting to get a restraining order. Accordingly, he consistently called her crazy and creepy. I never asked for details of the relationship, any more than the information that he would volunteer every once in a while, which was all negative. For my part, I disclosed the entirety of my dating history and told him that I have never had a serious relationship before. I spoke to him extensively about the guy I dated before him and gave him the full picture, good and bad. Fast forward to our engagement, we had been very private about our relationship, mostly because I do not like publicizing relationships or being public on social media. After he insisted, a few weeks ago, we each posted pictures of our engagement on our Instagram accounts as our first announcement. He did not tag me in his picture because he didn't want me to receive messages from his followers. We discussed various reactions to our post, looking through likes, mentioning reactions of people we had dated, talking about the reactions of relatives, etc. A few days ago, we both got drunk and we're talking. He started talking about his ex. For the first time, it was in a positive light. He started saying how she wanted him to be the best version of himself, she made him who he is today, she was so sweet, etc. He also said that he approached his parents about her to see their reaction, which directly contradicted his earlier statements. Then, he mentions that she sent him a message forwarded through a friend of hers, as he has her blocked. Immediately after our engagement post, cussing him out and said that she'd punch me if she ever sees me when I move to his country. I asked him why he didn't tell me about the message. We had been seeing each other every single day for the past month and had extensive conversations about exes and reactions. I then asked him to show me the message. He said he blocked her friend, but I told him that should not delete the message. He then told me to look through his phone if I didn't believe him. I told him I don't want to look through his phone, I just want him to pull up the message. He then forced his phone into my hand and told me to look through. He wouldn't take it back when I tried to give it back, so eventually I asked who I am supposed to be searching for. When I found the name, there was no message, so I just gave him back the phone. He then lost his temper, called me crazy for looking through his phone. And I told him not to use that word and that I did not look through his phone. He said he liked crazy and that crazy turned him on. I pulled away when he tried to hug me after that, so he got up and just left my house. Before storming out, he turned it into me being insecure and saying how he chose me and that he only wrote her one poem. whereas he has written me over 40 poems in the space of a shorter period, also contradicting what he said before. I also noticed other minor contradictions between what he told me when we first started dating and what he says now about other girls that he has dated. This is my first serious relationship and he has generally been amazing to me. He is thoughtful about everything that I say, goes out of his way to be nice to me and my family, welcomed me into his family, writes me poetry every week, buys me gifts constantly, opens the door for me every chance that he gets, etc. I am generally much more guarded than he is and not expressive about my emotions. He was very patient with me and never made me feel bad about that. A few months ago, when we spent a lot of time together in the same country, after we made engagement arrangements, he proposed, but the arrangements are made through families in our culture. I felt like a subconscious guard was lifted and I was able to fully open up to him because I could properly trust him. That is why these contradictions hurt me, as I feel like the very foundation of what helped me open up is being pulled out from under me if he could so easily mislead me for a year. When contradictory information, such as the fact that he approached his parents about marrying this girl from a different culture, is revealed to me, it feels like that was purposefully covered up. We had a long and emotional fight about it all, our first real fight. I told him that I do not care about his past, but what I care about is how he represents the past to me. He admitted that he was very wrong in giving me a false impression, but that his relationship was too toxic and difficult to discuss. I told him that this statement would have been enough for me 1 year ago, as I would not have pried or asked any further questions. I had not asked any questions throughout the year. Instead, I let him tell me what he was comfortable with. He told me that he fell in love at first sight and that he never thought a girl like me would have existed in his culture, which he mentioned before. So he wanted to do everything possible to make me fall in love with him, to feel 1/10 of what he felt towards me. I appreciated that, and I do feel like it was true based on our history, but I still have a problem with feeling misled. I obviously understand not wanting to reveal intense details about a past relationship at the start of dating someone, but my problem is the needless lying about certain details. Told him that there was no need to mention details of the past relationship at all if he was not ready to open up at the start of our relationship. It would have been better than drawing a picture of him not being interested in someone he once considered marrying. Even after he apologized countless times, admitted he was wrong for making misrepresentations, as well his reaction of calling me crazy, I still feel very upset and I feel like the subconscious guard in my head that stopped me from getting close to him or others in the past is back up. I do not know how to deal with this. I have barely spoken to him in 2 days, after usually seeing him on a daily basis, and I do not feel as comfortable with him as I once was, despite him being genuinely kind to me and me loving him. This is my first real relationship fight, so my questions are, is it normal to feel this way after a big fight? How do I move on from this? Should I accept his apology and move on? Is it wrong to keep holding this over his head despite his apology? Also, he has not sent me the message from his ex that he promised that he would send me. Should I be insisting to see it? Too long didn't read. My fiance spent over a year describing his only ex-girlfriend as crazy, said that he left her because he never cared for her, irrespective of the fact that his family would not have approved of her. Yet, now he switched the narrative to reveal contradictory facts and failed to show me a recent message she sent him after we made our engagement public. He apologized and admitted that he was wrong, but I still feel misled. Do I accept his apology and move on? And is it wrong to insist on seeing a recent message from his ex regarding our engagement? Update: to clarify, we're from an Arab country, but this is not an arranged marriage. We dated for 3 full months, seeing each other on a daily basis, before our relationship became long distance. He visited me every 2 months since. Due to COVID, he came back in June and I have seen him on an almost daily basis since June and prior to our engagement in August. So, it is not a question of an arranged marriage. We dated, spoke a lot, and got to know each other well. Update: to everyone describing him as a narcissist, I do not know much about it, but he does not seem to have some basic narcissistic qualities. I have seen him in interpersonal conflicts before, with his father and his sister, and he always owns up to his own mistakes and faults, never mistreating them. Also, he goes out of his way to help people, such as his own sister, in various circumstances, despite me knowing that it inconvenienced him, which is why I was not suspicious of his kindness and affection towards me, even though it did come off strong. You're not gonna like hearing this, but marrying this guy would be a huge mistake. Your fiance is very good at romancing you, the gifts, the poetry, etc. But that does not mean he is a good person. The fact that he lied to you about his ex is evidence of him being untrustworthy. And that whole "I'll force you to go through my phone, no, you're the crazy one" is just weird and manipulative. You should really be cautious about moving forward with this relationship. It seems that you like him for the things that he does for you and not his actual character, which is incredibly alarming. Don't sign your life away to a controlling, manipulative man just because he showers you with nice things. In my experience, if someone describes their exes as crazy, they are guaranteed to describe you the same way. Crazy is such a generic term, it could mean almost anything, the primary meaning being that the crazy woman's emotions are not valid. That is exactly how he used it with you, so this sounds like a consistent behavior with him. Expect it to happen whenever you criticize him in a particular way that triggers his defensiveness. It is a way to distract you from what you are asking about, it derails the conversation and puts you on the defensive instead. I think your head is in the right place. You'll never know everything he has lied about in his past relationships, but now you know how he reacts to confrontation. He obviously deleted the message but was unwilling to admit that, then attacked you for going along with his idea of giving you his phone. People with difficult personalities sometimes will cover it up by love bombing early in the relationship to make you feel amazing, then try to lock it down with marriage or kids as quickly as possible before you see who they really are. Once you are locked in, the real person will come out. Google love bombing and gaslighting to see the dynamics involved. All this over-the-top flattery comes across as insincere. He loves you 10x more than you love him? What does that even mean? He showers you with poems and gifts, which is nice but doesn't give you any indication of what kind of teammate he will be when things are difficult. I'm not saying run for the hills. Just keep your eyes open and don't let him distract you with attacks and flattery, alternating rejection and extreme claims of love. Observe what happens when you disagree about things. Observe how he reacts to the other people close to him when they get into a conflict. We had been together for a bit over a year, the majority of which we spent long distance as he lives in a different country. First mistake. Right after this you say you've never had any major problems, get along really well, etc., but you haven't been together long enough, and you've never even lived close or lived together. To the contrary, he has been very transparent. Directly contradicts the rest of your post. After we made engagement arrangements, he proposed, but the arrangements are made through families in our culture. I felt like a subconscious guard was lifted and I was able to fully open up to him because I could properly trust him. You really shouldn't be trusting someone completely after getting engaged. This should be towards the beginning of the relationship. Yours is built on weak/wrong foundations. Feels like that was purposefully covered up. The thing is, he was. Is this really who you want to spend the rest of your life with? This is my first real relationship fight, so my questions are, is it normal to feel this way after a big fight? The thing is, this isn't a normal fight. It's about tons of other things. It's about underlying issues from your relationship, running into engagement, not knowing each other well enough, him lying about his past relationship, and other things, probably, him mistreating you and calling you crazy, the pressure from your culture because you should be engaged, etc. etc. Accordingly, he consistently called her crazy and creepy. He called you crazy too. Do you realize this? He then lost his temper, called me crazy for looking through his phone. He pressured you into looking and you didn't find anything, because he deleted it. He's gaslighting you. He's lying to you. This'll only get worse in the long run. Please reconsider. Edit to answer ops edit, so he owns up to mistakes with others but not with you? I, 25F, don't know if I can go through with a marriage of convenience to my baby's father, 27M, even though it will be beneficial for my son. I met Alex during my best friend's engagement party. We ended up having a week-long fling which resulted in my pregnancy. I was going to get an abortion, but my family guilted me into keeping the baby by saying I should let my brother and Sil adopt him as they've been struggling to have a baby for years without luck, and my Sil just found out she's unlikely to ever be able to carry a baby to term. As awful as it sounds, I wasn't going to tell Alex and I was just going to let them adopt the baby after he was born. However, the further along I've gotten into my pregnancy, the less I want to give my son away. The only person I've confided my doubts about the adoption to was my best friend. I'm 7 months pregnant now, and last month I received a call from Alex demanding to know if I was having his baby. We ended up taking a prenatal paternity test at his insistence, and now he's outright told my family that he will block any adoption attempts. My Sil is devastated and my family are angry at me for telling him. They've all completely cut me off until I can convince Alex to let my Sil/brother adopt the baby. Since finding out the baby is his, Alex has been insisting we get married and quickly. His grandfather is very wealthy, but he's also very old-fashioned and believes only legitimate children have the right to his wealth. His grandfather has offered to create a trust fund for our son if we get married before he's born and stay married for 2 years. Alex is willing to go through with it. He thinks now that we're going to be parents, we should be willing to sacrifice things for our child. I've told him I'd do it, because in the moment I felt selfish for refusing, but I feel like I'm getting cold feet. We're supposed to get married in a week, and every time I think about it, I feel like I'm verging on a panic attack. What do I do? Too long didn't read. My baby's great-grandfather has offered to set up a trust fund for him if I marry his father and stay married to him for 2 years. The father is on board with the idea, but I don't know if I can go through with it. My 26F boyfriend, 29M, bought a ring. How to stop myself from freaking out, in a good way. So my boyfriend sat me down and had me pick out some different diamonds for me to look at. We had done this before and he had moved it to his cart but had not acted on it, resulting in the ring being sold. So when I picked one and he moved it to the cart with the band I picked out, he said, okay, so this one will probably get sold too and we'll have to do this again. I laughed because I figured it was true. Well, turns out he bought it long. He was sitting at his laptop doing work when I came up to hug him from behind and chit-chat. I noticed the ring company on his email and your purchase with, and saw another email on top of that saying he had had a conversation with a rep from the company, one of those rate your convo with. So I think it's safe to say he bought a ring. I don't think he's planning on proposing this year. He talked about it and he had made a joke about pushing the proposal from the spring 2021 to fall 2021 when we were messing around with each other. So maybe it'll still be spring, but I also don't know how long people just hold on to rings for, so maybe it'll be sooner. Anyway, how do I stop myself from spending each outing or trip or whatever as a potential proposal? I don't want to disappoint myself each time it doesn't happen or hype myself up in any way. Mostly because I want to be surprised. Wish he was better at hiding his email lol. TL, doctor, saw over boyfriend's shoulder he purchased a ring. How to basically forget about it and not be expectant at every opportunity to propose so that I'm surprised and not disappointed. Edit, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who responded and those who left awards. I'm happy I can share my happiness with others. I got some really great advice. I'm going to look into an engraved watch. I'm also going to just enjoy this time leading up to a proposal, whether it's tomorrow or a year from now. Like a lot of you said, wedding planning is stressful, so the lead up is one of the fun parts. Thanks. Smile.